Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking this video and subscribing to the channel. On today's show, we're going to be doing a match reaction to Arsenal's draw at home against Fulham 2-2, And I think we have loads of things to talk about. I have everything here in my phone. I have many, many things I want to talk about. It is the day after the night before, and yeah, I mean, yeah, let's just go ahead and let's get started because it's just like, yeah, we have so much to talk about and I know y'all have things to do, okay? But make sure you guys are liking this video, subscribing to the channel and all that kind of stuff. It helps the channel grow, helps it get seen, helps more people come around to our community here at She Knows Arsenal. So all those things really, really help. Let me just tell you guys a little bit about my day yesterday because it was just like the craziest thing. Well, it was crazy to me. So it started out with me going to the Soccer Archive pop-up shop in it's on 58 Oxford Street, across the street from Tottenham Court Station. And they are like the best, the nicest people. They invited me there to do a little bit of shopping. I did a little bit of content for them, but they had such an amazing a collection of retro kits and stuff like that. And so I went in there and did a little bit of shopping. I came out with Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo Brazil top, and it was great, And then from there, ran over to the Emirates, did a little bit of like a small photo shoot. I met let's see, the North End. I just want to make sure that I get his name correct. No, at the Clock End, who's a really, really good photographer that does stuff outside the Emirates. And also, and make sure I get his name right as well, Hepta Views, who's also a really good photographer. So yeah, we have some of the best content creators and photographers and creatives as a fan base. And if I met you over the last couple of weeks, thank you so much. Like, some of the interactions that I've had over the last couple of weeks going to games have been so humbling and amazing. And you guys are just so, so cool. And so, yeah, like if I met you, just let me know in like the comment section if you're watching now or you watch on playback. But my day started off amazing with both of those two different things. And then obviously went into the Emirates and gearing up for the game. I didn't feel nervous. I did feel like, you know, we would win the game. Obviously, I thought that, you know, it's Fulham at home. Hopefully, we'll get clicking. We had a big win against Crystal Palace, so away from home. Not a big win, but like a, emotional, like, yes, we're doing it win, I thought. 1-0 to the Arsenal at Selhurst Park. And so I thought we would carry that momentum into this game. I was ecstatic to hear about Trossard starting up front at center forward. But I think I was a little bit disappointed that we had not gone back to the Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, and White back four. But again, it's Fulham at home, and I thought we'll have the majority of the possession. Partey will be able to find space in the middle and influence the game from there, and we would have a decent game. And I was sitting 2 rows from the front at the corner, and it was like really good viewing. I have to be honest, like being that close to the players, I was like, wow, they're real people. Like, because I've never seen any of them in real life, like not that close, so it was interesting being like that close and being able to see them and all that kind of stuff. But I was feeling okay, like I was feeling good about the game. And then it started. And before everybody got like for real seated, we were down 1-0. And I was like looking around because I couldn't really see because people were kind of like standing up in front of me and like I wasn't quite like ready, and neither were they. And I was like, what happened? And a little prick next to me was like, they scored. I'm like, well, I know that, but like what actually happened? And I've rewatched it over and over and over and over again. And it's just calamitous. Like, it is something straight out of a circus. It is straight up comedy. It's straight up tomfoolery. It's all the things. I mean, we give up the most predictable and soft goals at home at the Emirates. And it's something that's been in this group since last season, and it doesn't seem like we've been able to stamp it out. The lack of concentration and professionalism at the beginning of games is shocking. And what is that? Three goals in the first minute in the last like year. That is ridiculous. I think you can't look at it as anything but just a lack of concentration. And I don't really think it has much to do with um the formation and tinkering and things like that, because when we were playing the lineup that everybody wants to see still, but just with Rice in the Xhaka position, that team was doing this shit too. So yeah, it's very concerning that we continuously do these things. And it's a sloppy back pass from Saka. I'm sure that he thought somebody was going to be in that position, but it was lax. That was definitely a mistake on his part. I think regardless if you think somebody should be there, you need to look up and make sure that they are, you know. Um and so you know, they're in on goal. Pereira puts it past Ramsdale. And if I'm honest, every single time I watch it, I do think that Ramsdale should probably do better. But, everybody will kind of say, well, it's on Saka. But just because we make mistakes doesn't mean that our goalkeepers can't do better at saving those shots. But it is what it is. It's one of those things where I wasn't even mad because we do it so often that now it's becoming a thing that I almost expect. And when I watch Arsenal play, I have to be honest with you guys, I do feel like every time they come down the pitch, they're going to score. And the reason why I feel that way is because we can give up one or two chances a game, but at least one of those is going in. We do not keep clean sheets. We don't take defending like good, taking defending good. We don't take it serious. I need more coffee. That was awful. We don't take defending good. What am I talking about? Hold on. And you think back to like Nottingham Forest and the chance that Brennan Johnson probably should put away. Like, we've had a lot of near misses too very early in games where we should be defending so much better, and it's usually like mistakes in possession where we're in possession, we lose it, and then some nonsense. So I think it was painful, but almost like acceptance that like we do this all the time and we're going to continue to do it. And no matter who's back there, it happens. And so this is a team thing and not, I don't think it's maybe specifically a person thing, but you guys can let me know what you think about it. It's shocking. Leahy says the baffling thing is we get clean sheets away. I don't know what happens at home. We just seem so much more on top of things away from home. Like, I think about some of our best away performances last season, away from home to Brentford, away from home at Fulham, away from home at Chelsea, away from home at Newcastle. Like, we just seem so much more switched on away from home. When we're at home, we just are, I don't know if it's arrogance, complacency. I have to look at it and say that it's a lack of concentration and lack of professionalism. And it just sets us off on the back foot. Like, you instantly saw, like, we gave up that goal and then the urgency to like score a goal, like, was just like there, and we were like desperate. And I think even that in itself was making people make mistakes going forward too, because the maybe 10 minutes after we conceded that goal, the ball was given to Martinelli at least 3 times and he made horrendous decisions like with the ball, like so uncharacteristic from him. Like, I think the things that I like about Saka and Martinelli the most is their decision making. And yesterday, the decision making was on the floor when we were going forward. You could just see like the panic was there. And that's what happens when you give up a goal so early, is you become frantic. And there was nobody out there on the pitch to go, calm down. It's fine. We're gonna get it. Just calm down. But I don't know. It's crazy. Aman says, that is crazy. What's wrong with us at home? I don't know. I don't know. It happens all the time. It really does. It's just at the point where I'm just like, damn, like for real. Um, Clock Orange says, only team to let in 3 goals in a calendar year within a minute. I mean, yeah, it's just it's nuts. It really is. Yo-Yo says it was an interesting game, not to say the least. It was. It's just, yeah, like it just is confusing. And the thing about, what's going on, I'm looking for the super chat because I saw it come through. But the thing about the problems that we're seeing early on is that these are things that were from last season, as well as what we're going to talk about a little bit later. But our defending of set pieces is something out of like, it's just ridiculous. Like, we do not take it serious. But these are things that were happening last season. So why have they not been nipped in the bud? Like, the fact that we're still seeing it is very scary to me, Not scary. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but you know what I mean. Your name, I'm not gonna say it, but thank you so much for your super chat. Said, not gonna lie, Jess, as a City fan, I'm praying Arteta continues with this Havertz experiment. Yeah, I mean, if he continues on with, you know what it is, like, I don't even know if it's just the Havertz experiment, but if we continue playing the way that we're playing now, we're not challenging for shit. I actually think Havertz is less of an issue in terms of our title hopes than the defending and the lack of concentration. Because despite Havertz not being that great in these first couple of games and our attack not clicking, I think against Forest and Crystal Palace and Fulham, we created enough to put all 3 of those games away. I do. So a lot of people are focused in on Havertz, which I do think there's a conversation to be had about Havertz. But despite that, we have been dominant in all 3 games. We've created enough chances to put those games away, but our silly lack of concentration is actually a bigger thorn in our side in terms of any sort of title challenge or, trying to get a trophy. Like, that to me is more concerning. But I hear you 110%. And right now, if I'm a City fan, I'm not worried about Arsenal at all, if I'm being honest. So yeah, we're gonna get to, I'm gonna tell you guys everything we're gonna get to, because I know you guys want to talk about a lot. We're gonna get to all of it. Early on, I did want to just talk about the conceding of the goals early and why you guys think that that's happening. We're definitely going to get to the party at right back. Are we shoehorning Havertz into the side, Vieira and Eddie? Because I do think there was some positivity there for the 2 of them defending the lead, set piece defending. Ramsdale, is there something there? Midfielders turning up at the Emirates and having the best games of their life. What the hell? And are we starting slowly or are we going backwards? So we're going to get to all of that. There's 100 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Imbieri says defending has been horrible, but Gabriel seems to be the vocal leader on the back line, but has been on the bench without reason. I'm going to say this because I think it's going to be controversial. And I'm not saying it because it's controversial. I promise you this. But yesterday, leaving the game, I thought, oh, maybe we should have played Gabriel. That's what I thought. But these mistakes at the back were happening even when he was out there. Even when Gabriel was playing, we were conceding those types of goals. In fact, he had quite a few individual errors of his own last season. And even in preseason, he had a big individual error against Manchester United. So I do think Gabriel is probably our best defender, and he's good back against the wall away from home. But do I actually believe that Gabriel is the key to us not conceding these goals? No, I don't, because he was doing it like we were conceding the set piece goals even with him in there, So I just want to be clear on that I do think that the Gabriel thing is, we actually didn't give them very much. I think again, like at both games at home, Nottingham Forest and Fulham didn't really have that many chances. We were very dominant in both games. The chances that they were given because we were being stupid. And it feels like anytime somebody gets even a half chance against us, it goes in, you know? So even though Gabriel, I want to say he's passionate and he defends with his life, I'm not quite sure I believe he's a leader like that. And the reason why I say that is because I do think that the same goals happen whether he's on the pitch or not, because I've seen it with my own two eyeballs, So but I hear people want him in the back line, and I think because we want the build up and the Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White back. I think that's more of a reason to want Gabriel back. Do you know what I mean? Um so yeah. Let's see. Clock Orange says Gabriel's a great defender, but he lacks technical quality to play at left back. He will play when Zinchenko is back. I kind of agree with that. I do think some of this is just like, the balance of the back line. Um, let's see. My stomach is like growling so badly. Um, um, so yeah. And Mr. says he's still our best defender. I agree. He still is our best defender. I just think those goals still go in. I mean, is he going to stop from the left-hand side? Is he going to stop what happened with Saka? No. He's not. So yeah. And again, the goal that Bournemouth scored in the first minute, um, and the goal that what was the other one? Southampton, was he not out there? So there you go. Um, let's see. Yo-Yo says Arsenal are going to continue conceding while Arteta tinkers with the back line. It is what it is. What's more frustrating for me is the sloppy in possession. And yeah, I think this kind of leads me into, the sloppiness, the fact that the players don't actually look like they know what's going on. Like there's a lot of confusion and wayward passes that you just didn't see last season. I think everything about last season, it felt like the team was so on the same page about everything from minute one. And we added new players into the team, right? We added Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko and Saliba into the team. But I think the quality of those players, um, and the fact that Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus had already kind of played in a system like that was kind of like a cheat code. And so not only did they slot straight in, but they lifted our level up significantly. I think the two of them make us very close to a title winning team. And without them, we don't quite look as good. Um, and so having other players come into the team and changing the system has created like a lack of continuity, and the connections are broken, and the connections to me that are most broken is really on our right side. I think Saka clearly thinks somebody is going to be there when he passes the ball back, and it's probably he's looking for like Ben White or something, or not looking but expecting him to be there, and he wasn't there because Partey was somewhere else. And it's it's clear that the players, I don't think, feel confident and comfortable with the system that we're playing. And so you're seeing like a lack of, when players are comfortable, they pop it around really quickly and, almost like with their eyes closed, and they make decisions quickly and they don't seem to second guess themselves as much. I think when you look at the way that we are attacking, especially, you just see a lack of conviction in everything that our attackers are doing, except for one player. And that player is Eddie Nketiah. Everybody else kind of looks like they're second guessing, even like, Martinelli, like right after we gave up the goal, he got the ball 2 or 3 times and just kicked it out. That is so unlike him. Even like Ben White, like he was getting into those positions where naturally, he would just either hit it first time or, pass it quickly, but he was taking too long on the ball. And I think that is a direct consequence of changing the system and guys not knowing where to be and where somebody will be. And so they're taking too long, taking too many touches, second guessing everything that they're doing. And a lot of people are really calling for us to go back to the lineup that we kind of had in the Community Shield, where essentially Rice just plays the Xhaka role and everything else is the way that it was last season. And I do think that at a certain point, Arteta, when we get down the line, will have to choose what to do with Havertz, Rice, and Partey. I think that is creating a unnecessary issue. And here's my thing. I think that maybe Arteta was thinking that maybe I don't know. Like I think we always got Declan Rice to play the 6, and that's the issue that we have currently is that there's kind of like a battle between like do we play Rice in a position that we actually didn't get him for in order to accommodate Partey and probably play a system that feels more comfortable to this team? Or do we get Rice going in the position that we bought him for? But does Partey drop to the bench? And, you know, do we risk not having like enough midfield? I think one thing that really stands out to me with the way that we play is that it's very heavily reliant on Zinchenko being able to pinch inside and become somewhat of a midfielder. That worries me a lot because Zinchenko is not necessarily the most reliable in terms of his fitness. And I do think that that makes us very predictable like it did last season. And without Timber not having that option, and I do think a lot of this was built around Timber and not having him is really throwing like a wrench into everything. But Arteta needs to decide, I think, eventually if he, because we're so heavily reliant on Zinchenko, you want to get him into the team. So are you going to drop Partey or are you going to put him in midfield, not let Rice really settle into the 6th position that we bought him for and drop Havertz and potentially damage his confidence even further. And so I think that is the complication that we're having at the moment is that at some point Zinchenko has to come back into the team because Timber is not there and the system is built around him kind of coming into midfield. You saw it as soon as he came onto the pitch. I know he made the mistake giving away the ball and then, the defending on the corner. But in terms of everything that we want to do going forward, it's only ever really works if he's out there. And that is so crazy to me, being a system being built around Zinchenko and his ability to unlock things for us. So I think that's where Arteta might need to make a decision eventually. I don't think we need to I don't think there's anything wrong with trying new things, especially early on in the season, because we said Arteta needed to try new things. And so we can't go back because things are uncomfortable now. I think a lot of us were saying that. I know I was somebody that was saying that I do feel like we need to be able to play in different ways. We cannot just run the same 11 every single time, run it into the ground. Other guys need to play and we need to have different looks and all that kind of stuff. So I don't actually have an issue with the tinkering as much as other people. What I have an issue with is how we've planned this and how it looks like the plan is already kind of like there's tinkering and then we're looking at something that looks crazy and I'm looking at something that's looking crazy. Timber's injury I think has really thrown a thorn into all of this. I really, really do. And so I do think that Arteta needs to because I think that if we go to Partey in the middle and Rice in the 8, Zinchenko doing his thing, and the same back line that we'll look really, really good. But it doesn't really solve the issue that if certain players are out of the team, how do we survive? And so I think we're in a difficult situation. I don't think we plan properly for the season because a lot of what we do is really heavily dependent on like 2 or 3 unicorns. Last season it's very dependent on Partey, Zinchenko, if those guys are not out there, we look wild. Now this season it feels like it was dependent on Zinchenko. Like it's wild to me, So um again, I don't actually have a huge issue with the tinkering because I think even with all the tinkering, we're very dominant and we're creating enough chances to win games. But eventually, I think he's gonna have to nail down something. And I'm leaning towards going back to the old faithful, but I know we have to try new things. I know we do. Amon says in the second half, we look so much better when we reverted to what we did last season. But again, we take the foot off the gas as soon as we take the lead. Amir says we asked for rotation and we got it. We all agreed that we burned out towards the end of the last 2 seasons. Rather see us experiment with all of our resources than we were forced to in the end. I get that. And I think that's the thing. It's like, I think there's a lack of trust and belief in what we're doing from the fan base, if I'm really honest with you. Like sitting in the stadium, this is just my experience. Some other people will say that this is not their experience. It's fine. Tell you guys from my feeling. Last season, being at the stadium, you could just feel the energy and people were very believed in what we were doing. And I think it's because we had an early proof of concept from the moment that we started playing in preseason. This season, we've come into it off of the back of, I think, a very emotional and disappointing end to the season. And then we bought a couple of players, one of whom I think a lot of people were very confused about why we brought that guy in and maybe not addressing other positions as well that people feel like was important. We start preseason, we don't look great. We don't look like we did last season. That's what I'll say. I'll say we didn't look like we looked last preseason. And then Timber gets injured. And he was the one signing that came in and looked really good. And then we're not blowing teams away at home, in games that we should. And so I think there's just a lack of belief in what we're doing. And so, and I think that says a lot, by the way, that at this point, like 4 years into Arteta's tenure, there's an underbelly of lack of conviction in lack of belief in what we're doing. That's another conversation for another day. But there's not that blind faith that like Man City fans have. Even though they're tinkering and stuff like that, they always kind of believe that their team is going to be all right. We're tinkering and we're like, just go back to what we know, go back to what we know. And so, yeah, I think that we're uncomfortable with what we're seeing and we're panicking as a fan base. And so I expect until we're blowing teams away that people will consistently talk about going back to what we knew from last season, but that doesn't actually solve the problem that we have where guys come into the team when we're desperate and we need to win and all this kind of stuff at the end of the season, but we haven't really seen them. They haven't really played with the first team, and we start to really drop off. Because again, even like with the tinkering, we still were quite dominant. You know what I mean? So yeah. Ultimate Gunner says Arteta ripping this team apart just to fit in useless Havertz, drop effing Kai Havertz and play our best 11. Fabio did more in 20 minutes than Havertz did in 4 games. But again, like I understand the frustration here and like the narrative is that we're ripping everything apart to shoehorn Kai Havertz into the team. And I do think there's a little bit of an element of like Arteta wanted this player, so he's going to play him. The fear is that it will become another Willian situation where there's other players that can play there that are probably better suited at the moment. And he will continue to play Kai Havertz, even though it's not working. But just even like naming Fabio Vieira, I think is interesting because so many people that doubted Fabio, I was not one of them. You guys know that, are using Fabio Vieira, as a reason why we should give Kai Havertz more time. And I think he does need more time. I believe that. I think he does need more time. But right now, it's not looking even because somebody said that this feels so similar to Odegaard when he first came in on loan, Kai Havertz. And I just thought that was just such revisionism. Odegaard was not perfect and struggled in certain parts of the game, first coming to Arsenal on loan. but they were flashes. There were flashes. There were games where he ran the game. Remember West Ham when we came back from 3-0 down? There were flashes. And I don't think I've seen very many flashes from Kai Havertz. If I'm really honest with you guys, I think he's been all right. I said that before that I think he's been okay at best. I think the idea that he's been good or great that I've seen people say excellent has been totally forced and over the top, 100%. And something that somebody tweeted this to me, and I wanted to read it because I thought it was so good and so right. He said, "The reason we are here is because in general, the Arsenal fan base has a tendency to be overreactionary, as evidenced by past agendas. Consequence, consequently, a portion of fans now feel it's necessary to back players aggressively despite their match form. The solution here is to stop." And I said the solution is for both sides to stop. Kai Havertz has just been all right. Like, he really has just been okay, and yesterday he was poor, and it's okay to say that, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I think that the signing is a flop or it's gonna flop or whatever. I think he needs more time. Like, I just don't think you can gather all the data that you need to say that somebody is a flop in 3 games. Like, it's just too difficult, you know? But the idea that the guy is playing great or, we just don't understand ball because you don't see what he's doing is just we as Arsenal fans, one thing that we have seen come through is good midfielders. We know what it looks like. We've seen many, many, many good midfielders. We know what it looks like. We know what an Arsenal midfielder looks like. Right now, Kai Havertz does not look like an Arsenal midfielder, you know? Um, and that's okay to say. But I do think we're going too far in both directions, with Kai Havertz. He hasn't been great, but he needs more time. There's a quality player in there. I do think we took a massive risk that we didn't necessarily need to by bringing him in, but he is nowhere near flopping at this point. We need to give him more time. So yeah, Arteta's in a predicament, or it's a perceived predicament because he may feel like he just needs to play Kai Havertz until it works, but you could just go back to what we were doing last season. You could, but if you do that, I don't know what the repercussions would how that would hurt Havertz in terms of his confidence that's already quite low. So we're in a difficult situation right now, I think. Ruben says, "I agree. I don't think Arteta ever intended to invert the right back, but injuries has led him to do it." Cafunso says, "The fans are overreactors. You have to trust Arteta as he is developing. Give him room to breathe or his growth will be restricted. Take the good and the bad and let him work." Let's see. Obi says, "The team picks itself for F's sake. Why complicate things just to shoehorn Havertz makes absolutely no sense." I mean, what do you think is going to happen, though? I mean, do you guys genuinely feel like he's trying to force him into the team? Because, like, let me say this. If Zinchenko or Timber were not injured, well, I don't know. Maybe this was the plan all the time, you know? Like, let's say Zinchenko was just chilling on the bench and Timber got injured, but Zinchenko was available. Do you guys not believe that Zinchenko would have came into the team right away? Or do you think there's something more there? Because, I mean, Arteta did go into the first game of the season with a clear plan to play what he played. He played Timber and Saliba and Ben White, and Thomas Partey was inverting, you know. You didn't have to do that. Technically, you could have done Timber at right back and the same back three, like, you could have done Gabriel and Saliba and White. You could have done that. I don't know. I don't know if I believe this is just to shoehorn Havertz. I think some of this is injury and then also some galaxy brain thing that the coaching staff have thought of to make us better is to play, to take Gabriel out of the team and to play Timber and White and Saliba as the back three, and then Partey goes here or Zinchenko goes here. I don't know, but I don't know if it's just to shoehorn Havertz in. I think there was a grand plan for the back line, and maybe it didn't include Gabriel and Zinchenko. I don't know. I don't know. The Sheikh says this tinkering with the system is unsustainable. Players like Saka and Martinelli look stranded with no support, and the defense is a mess. Fair enough. Jesus says he is working out adaptations and options for when he needs them. Exactly what Pep did with City last year. Makes me laugh when people don't like it. The same ones say that there's no plan B. We kind of spoke about that. Yeah, I agree that we need to work out different looks and players need to be able to play with different people. But yeah, like, I don't know. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Aman says, yes, we asked for rotation, but don't play players in positions they are not comfortable in. This new setup can work with the right profile players. I like what you just said. I like what you just said. I couldn't put my finger on it. It's like you want the tinkering so you can have different looks, but you don't want players playing out of position. And I think the player that you're talking about probably most specifically is Thomas Partey. And I thought he played okay yesterday. I think it's very difficult for me to be critical of a player that's clearly playing a position that doesn't suit him. And we saw, like, even against Crystal Palace when we went down to 10 men and then we moved some things around and Thomas went into midfield, we looked instantly better, So I find it hard I can't criticize him. He's doing the best he can in a position that definitely does not suit him. Even when we're dominant now, teams figure it out. If they can stop him from gaining access to central spaces, he's nullified back there. Like, there's no reason to have him there. So, and Ben White, Odegaard, and Saka is being broken up, so either buy a right back, another, because that was a position that Timber was supposed to be playing, buy another right back and then play them there and, get Saka used to playing with a different right back. But I'm not sure that we're supporting Saka the best by having Partey at right back. It's nothing like inverting with Zinchenko. Zinchenko completely understands what he's supposed to be doing in that position where I think it's harder for Partey. Wheezy says, Havertz's confidence is already on the floor. He shouldn't be starting games and should have to earn it. It does look like Arteta is shoehorning him in. Fair enough, Ivy says, I'll be honest, I'm worried about the tinkering. I don't like it. I want us to be less predictable, but I just feel like there's a better way to do that, in my opinion. Nashville says, I'm not giving up on Havertz until I see him with Jesus on the pitch. He needs someone to run off of. Eddie and Martinelli ain't it. They want to run into the same spaces. And maybe until Jesus is ready to go, maybe you don't play Havertz. I don't know why I stopped mid-sentence, but maybe that's what you do. And then you kind of save his confidence, a little bit. I also think when you expose players like this, you're doing them a disservice. Like, if he needs to play with somebody like Jesus through the middle, then just wait for Jesus to get fully fit, and play somebody else there. Play Rice there. Play Fabio Vieira there, I'm getting there. Justin J says there's a redundancy issue with Martinelli and Havertz. Both want to do runs off the ball, need a passer on that side to release either. Can't play both on the same side. And one thing, like, if Partey can't access central spaces, then what you basically have is the ability to shut down our midfield altogether because, all you have to do is flood the midfield with three players and essentially you take Declan Rice and Odegaard out of the team. You take them out of the fold completely. You put two people on Partey, you put, and you have that person bouncing between him and Declan Rice. You stop them from getting on the ball and then you stop Odegaard getting on the ball. And then You have Havertz that's wide open, and you need a certain type of midfielder to play if you're not gonna get any purchase out of your fullbacks, and I think with Thomas Partey and Kivior, you're not gonna get anything out of them going forward. Nothing. You're not gonna get anything from them going forward. So your midfielders need to be so active, so willing to get on the ball, so willing to get things done, so willing to, like, make things happen. And I think with Havertz, because he's such an off the ball guy and he lacks confidence to get on the ball, he's not the right choice if we're going to be doing what we're doing. Because what we have going right now, the fullbacks are not going to be able to help relieve any pressure from the midfield whatsoever. They're not going to create a threat going forward where they can't just sit on, because basically what they can just do is just sit on top of Thomas Partey and Declan Rice and nothing is happening. And so I just prefer my midfielders to want to get on the ball and make things happen. And Havertz can only do that if Partey can get in midfield and make things happen and make things easier for Declan. Declan Rice was our main and only hub yesterday. I actually thought, just to shout him out, I thought Declan Rice had a very good game yesterday. Rewatching the game, watching his compilation, and then also being in the ground, I thought he was the only one that was willing to stamp any sort of authority on a game where we're playing at home against a team that's relegation fodder. Like, it was shocking to me that, you guys know I love him. I think Odegaard's great, but I thought that he was really passive until we went ahead or until we scored the goal. I didn't think he really offered that much of like a presence or anything, but that could also just be that everything on the right side was very clunky and not working. And it was just very easy. It's very easy to shut down Odegaard, put a lot of bodies on Rice, make sure Thomas Partey can't come central, and just leave Havertz free. But I think that when you ultimately, I prefer midfielders that want to get on the ball and make shit happen. And if Havertz can't do that, then you need to put somebody else in there at the moment because we're not getting anything from fullbacks. Like actually nothing. So yeah. Yo-Yo says people need to look back at the immense job Pep did shuffling his deck last season with Lewis, Bernardo Silva in their back line and Jones and Stones joining midfield. Squad management isn't pretty. Yeah, and like that's the other thing is like there was a period last season where Pep was, inverting on either side, on the right side with Lewis and on the left side with Bernardo Silva, and it was not working. It really took until he got to the point where he decided to just play 4 center backs where things just really started working out for them. And so it does take time to figure out what's best and what works. The thing is that Pep is a known winner that has tons of credit in the bank to be able to tinker, and people feel like he's going to get it right, where Arteta has never been like every time he's kind of tinkered, it has kind of backfired or maybe not worked out. And yeah, so we have to wait and see. Boy says, frankly, I'm all right with letting this team gel with its new shapes. So yeah, I mean, again, we asked for this, and so it's just what it is. We asked for seeing different shapes, seeing different formations, seeing different people. I think the most glaringly obvious thing is that, the Thomas Partey at right back thing, does it really work? Does it really make sense? Are we overcomplicating that? But I'm okay with seeing like Kivior at left back. I'm okay with, Trossard starting center forward. I know he was awful, but the thing is like players need playing time. I'm okay with things like that. I just don't know about the Partey thing. It just feels so easy to shut down because unlike Zinchenko, he doesn't find the same spaces. Like Zinchenko just kind of goes everywhere and finds the space and stuff like that. Partey kind of just like gets in the same spaces as Declan, and it just feels like it's clunky, but who knows? Let's see. Darren says we didn't ask for random players in random positions. I mean, they're not random players though, are they? You know, I don't know what that means. Roman says, Jesus, Kai, and Eddie all did not score 15 goals last season. Why does the manager create a system that does not allow Saka and Martinelli to thrive, which were our main goal threats? Yeah, I hear you on that. And I do think that, until, we kind of switched back to what we know and Zinchenko came in, I thought that was only when you saw like a better Saka. Um, but I don't know if the system is the reason why Martinelli was getting into open positions on the left and couldn't figure it out. He shot to the goalkeeper like three times. He dribbled out of the touch twice. He kicked it out of bounds randomly twice, so um I also think that, like, there's just a lack of confidence up there, like, it's multiple layers. I do think that some of what we're trying to tinker and figure out is stopping things from looking as fluid as they usually do, but we created more than enough chances for Saka and Martinelli to score goals, and they were both poor on the day, and so they need to take responsibility for that. That was easily a 4-0 game despite it not being fluid and it looking imbalanced and weird at certain points. I'm not convinced that like tinkering is the reason why, Saka is at the back post and he doesn't head it in the back of the net. I think we're letting them off the hook a little bit too. So yeah, there's 200 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Still trying to figure out the Havertz Partey thing. That is where I'm like, I'm focused on because I'm trying to figure out what that is. Yo-Yo says, Partey, Havertz aren't both starting versus Man United. Think Arteta will respect form. Yeah, and this may have been something that we were just doing until Zinchenko gets fit. It hasn't really worked. It doesn't feel right. But against Man United, I fully expect us to play how we played against City. If we don't, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Or you could play Vieira. I know people aren't ready for that, but yeah. So yeah, it's one of those. Yeah. We'll see what happens against Man United. Can I just say that like as disappointed as I am, I'm nowhere near as disappointed as I was last season. I don't know if I'm numb to it now or what, but like just is what it is. So let's talk about some positives because there were some. And we'll start off with Eddie. I think, I'm a person, if you guys have been here for a while, you guys know that if I think I got something wrong, and I'll say that I got something wrong 100%. You guys know there's no shame in my game. Like I got it wrong, I got it wrong. And I think against Crystal Palace, Eddie had almost the perfect center forward performance. He was really good. He just didn't finish his chances. Which again, as a center forward, that's what you're judged on. So it's really difficult to give him any sort. You could say that he was really good, but also recognize that that's like center forward, you have to score. Trossard came in. He had an opportunity to make a claim for the shirt, and he was atrocious. I have to like he was so bad, and like I don't know, lack of confidence. I don't know what it is. I mean, he was really good in preseason, so I'm not sure, what happened. It could have been like all the changes. I don't know, but all in all, he didn't play well. I think in his own performance, he can look at things and say, I just wasn't good, and I was somebody that was heavily advocating for Trossard playing, and it didn't work out. It really didn't. It was bad. Eddie came on and was amazing. His energy is exactly what you need right now. I think the hunger, the determination, the fact that he doesn't let the defenders rest is so important. And just seeing him, like, up close and personal, I was like, "Wow," like, he really is backing himself, and that's so important. He looks like he's gone up a level, and the goal that he scored was great. Perfect performance, I think, from him, yesterday, and he keeps the shirt. He has to start against United. It that's all you could do. You have to, I think, um, give people the and maybe Arteta was always gonna start Eddie against, Man United. He potentially was, and was giving him a little rest before, the game, but he ended up having to go back to him to try to get something out of that game. But he definitely starts against United because his performances have to be, um you have to get something from them, from the manager. And so, yeah, Eddie was really, really good in that game, and, I'm happy for him. It's hard to know that as soon as Jesus is fit, you're out of the team basically, and to still perform the way that he is. And so, yeah, he was really, really good yesterday. Um, yeah, I don't there's nothing really much more to say, he was really, really good. Um, let's see, Tanubix says, Eddie has been our best attacker this season. He has. And, I think the thing is like, I feel like we still don't get the same fluidity that we had last season with him up front. But at the same time, that doesn't mean he's not performing really well. And so I will still probably still prefer we have like Jesus up there, somebody that can create, but that doesn't take anything away from what Eddie is doing. He can only do as good as he can. And right now he is our most dangerous attacker, you know, and that's just what it is. Leigh says, "Am I crazy to say Eddie is probably our best player so far this season?" It's not crazy to say, it's probably true. He has performed well in every single game, so um, I feel like bar is kind of low because so many players haven't showed up yet, but he's been good. He has been very, very good. Um, so yeah. Um, let's see. Jabu says, if I'm a player in this team and I can play left eight, that is Trossard, Smith Rowe, and Vieira, my confidence would be on the floor seeing Arteta is trying to um, Kai even when he doesn't try anything. Um, well, look at Vieira's performance. He didn't look like his confidence was on the ground. I mean, I get what you're saying, seeing other players playing your position when you think you're better is, but I also think part of being a top player and top footballer is to maintain a level of like, when I get out there, I'm going to do what I can control. And I think that's the difference between certain players and like Pepe, because even though I do think that Arteta made a mistake, not continuing to play him and playing Willian despite his poor form, Pepe let it consume him, and that was it. And I expect players that are at Arsenal to have very strong mentalities because that's what you need. Because if something happens to Havertz, you need to be ready to step in, or if Havertz gets dropped. I actually think there is a chance that Havertz will get dropped at some point. I don't think Arteta is that dumb. If he's playing the way that he's playing now in a couple of weeks, I think he'll drop him. There's 200 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. I want to read some of these super chats because I really appreciate them. Thank you guys so much. Oil or Nothing says, if Havertz starts against United, I will jump. Yeah. I think you can make a case for Rice or Vieira starting in that position based on the last couple of games, so we'll see. I can't imagine a scenario where that would make sense against one of the better teams. So yeah. EM, thank you so much for your very kind super chat. I super appreciate it. EM is saying we're playing better than last season. Different is last season's team didn't park the bus from the start. That's why first half of the season was better than the second half. Let me read that again. We playing better than last season. Difference is last season's team didn't park the bus from the start. That's why the first half of the season was better than the second half. So you're saying like the opposition are more prepared for us, so they are parking the bus a lot more. I said this at the beginning. I think we've been very dominant in every single game, not just from a possession standpoint, but I think we have had multiple like chances. Like if you look at the first half, even before Zinchenko comes in, Saka should score at the back post, Kai Havertz should score, and Martinelli had several chances to just put in a decent ball, and he shit the bed like 3 or 4 times. Like we and Fulham created nothing. Like they created nothing. They got the chance that we gave them. And then for the rest of the half, they just kind of defended. They didn't create shit, you know? And so I don't actually think that we're like so much worse than last season. I think, like you said, we're different and teams are very prepared to sit in either a mid or a low block and let us make the mistake and capitalize and then time waste, you know? So I agree with you. I always kind of felt like this beginning of season was going to be a lot less convincing than the beginning of last season. But seeing it with your own 2 eyes is like, oh damn, you know. But I get what you're saying about teams are very prepared. They know what to do, but we have to figure out a way where their game plan doesn't work. And right now, their game plan is working. Sit back in some sort of block and just be clinical, or even when we give you a half chance, to put it away, you know, and we have to make sure that that doesn't happen. Thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Jezza, thank you so much for your super chat. Says he can't start Jess. He is a channel runner and instinctive box striker. He doesn't bring other players into play. Martinelli is much better with Jesus on the pitch. Tough on Eddie, but Jesus has to start against United. Watching Jesus up front, and really close to him, he's not in shape and he's not fit. He's not ready. He looks slow. So I don't expect him to start against Man United. I get what you're saying, but you know, I don't know if half fit, you know, he's fit enough to be on the bench. Like I get that, but like he's not quite himself yet. So I still think Eddie should and will start. But, you know, if we're struggling, I fully expect Jesus to come in. Yeah, I think with Kai, I still think that he'll do better with Jesus in the team. But, you know, then you're asking somebody else to do the midfielding. And I still think you need 3 midfielders that are comfortable on the ball, that are willing to make things happen. You have one that's just because the thing about Xhaka is even though a lot of his job last season was to get in the box, finish off chances, he did a lot of that. He also did the midfielding part too. And we're relieving Havertz of all of that midfielding. He doesn't have to do any of it. And teams are very smart and they know how to stop Partey from coming central. So I do think that, you know, with Havertz, I don't think he can start against United, but I think Eddie is more than capable and probably our most informed striker to start against United, with the idea that if things are not working out, you can bring on Jesus. But thank you so much for your super chat. I super appreciate it. That is very, very kind. Very, very kind, you guys. So yeah. Let's see. Darren says we are always going to create chances against subpar opposition. The main point is if we play our players in their familiar roles, we will create so much more chances. Yeah, but we already know that though. Like we already know if we revert back to what we know we're going to score more chances. So we don't have to rush and do it. We know we have that as like, we know what works is if you go back to what we played last season and just put Rice in Xhaka's role. We know that. But what we don't know is if we don't have some of those pieces, we can't do anything different. And I still feel like we're letting a lot of our players off the hook for not being clinical and not finishing their chances because we created a lot. And that game is so different if Saka doesn't just blindly pass it back. And we put away any of those chances in the first half. You know, so there you go. So yeah. Let's see what else you guys are saying. I feel like I put in my contacts like backwards because I can't even see out of this eye. It's wild. Darren Walsh says we are always. Oh yeah, you already said that. So Eddie was great. Now let's get to the real deal. Let's get to the real deal. Okay. We need to talk about Vieira, guys. We need to talk about Vieira. Yes, I'm excited. Yes, I'm happy. Okay. I did my hair yesterday. And you're probably like, don't you do your hair every day? No, I don't. Like, for the most part, like I do I do my hair do it like every 2 weeks, like whatever. You guys don't care. But like my hair was beautiful yesterday. Like I was feeling good. I was taking pictures, whatever. It started raining like nobody's business yesterday. Nobody's business. It was pouring down. I was in the second row, so there was like nothing actually covering me, but actually like, the awning thing that actually covered it was like right over me. So like big ass drops were dropping right here. Like that. No hood, no umbrella, no nothing. Just sitting there, just getting drenched. I was standing in the rain, watching Vieira put on the performance of a lifetime with like grinning ear to ear. Ear to ear, you guys, ear to ear. I've been telling you, just wait. Just wait. Because he's good. He's good. And I'll preface all of this by saying that like I do feel like the criticism around him was mostly justified because he did not play well every single game. He was actually poor in a lot of games last season. And this is always my thing, is that I feel like honest criticism in the moment is totally fine. But what I always push back on was the idea that like somebody with no preseason that came in injured as well, that had only had a couple of months of first team football under his belt, because I really do feel like people don't understand that he was not even in the first team consistently until Luis Diaz left for Liverpool mid-season. So from the time that he was getting first team minutes to the time that we bought him was about, let's see, January, February, March, April, May, like 5 months. And then he was injured. So he needed adaptation. He did. Like, and my biggest example of that was somebody that's played more first team football, top player, more first team football, starting every single game. And Lucas Paqueta needed 6 months to adapt to playing at West Ham. First half of the season, he was like non-existent. Second half of the season, you started seeing the Paqueta that you knew. And he had more first team experience than Fabio Vieira. But everybody wrote him off because he wasn't Paqueta, he wasn't Tielemans, he wasn't these other guys that we should have gotten. We paid a lot of money and he wasn't good right away. He wasn't perfect. And I thought, when he played against Brentford, he was good. When he played against Wolves, he was good. But in other games, he was poor. He was hit or miss and definitely needed to eat some chicken and rice because he was frail, right? That performance yesterday was spectacular. Watching it in person was just like the fruits of my labor. I'm so glad I did not sell my stocks. The guy is so good. And if he can keep that up, he's going to be so useful for us, because the difference between him and Havertz, well, first I'll say is that he got to play with Zinchenko, which really helps, right? Havertz didn't get to play with Zinchenko. But Zinchenko and Vieira, you had guys in the midfield that wanted to get on the ball, and that is so important. When you want to win a game, your midfielders have to want to get on the ball. But Vieira, he was on the ball, he was making decisions, he was circulating passes correctly. But what he was doing that Havertz wasn't, was he was taking the game to Fulham. And the shots that he was taking were good shots. He was all over the place. The pass that he put in for Nketiah was spot on. It was just the performance that I've been waiting on, because I knew it was coming. He just needed to put everything together and be physically ready to make a difference on the pitch. I mean, that is what I expect from Fabio Vieira, because he's not like Odegaard, where Odegaard's kind of like the pass before the pass. Fabio Vieira is he is a GA magnet. He had 2 goal contributions yesterday, because obviously he got the penalty and then he had the assist. and he could have very easily scored a goal. I mean, if he scores that overhead kick, I am on the pitch getting arrested, okay? Because that was just it. And that's what you expect from people that come off of the bench. And I think last season, what you saw was guys come off the bench and not really make a difference. That is what you expect from guys coming off the bench. Now, again, he has to continue to put up performances like this. He set the bar very high with that performance. But that is what you can get from Fabio Vieira. He's not like Odegaard, but what he does offer you is so valuable. Goals and assists. Goals and assists. Like, he's always looking to put the ball on a plate for somebody. And yeah, and you saw a little bit of that in the Community Shield as well. Like, I thought his cameo in the Community Shield was kind of like a muted version of what we saw yesterday. And if he can build on that, that left center mid position is open as far as I'm concerned. And so if he can continue to put in performances like that, I don't know why he couldn't start, because the guy is good. He's good. He just needed time to adapt. So yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy. I was like, I'm leaving here with something. I am leaving here with something. I've been waiting for that. I was waiting for that. For sure. Only Gunnar says, anyone still doubting Arteta clearly hasn't learned anything so far. Sayeda says, Vieira showed glimpses last season of what he could bring. I genuinely feel he may eventually displace Havertz if he continues to play well. And that's the thing. It's like somebody was like, you know how you just do that thing when you're just like, oh my gosh, like, what are you saying? Saying that Havertz and how he's played so far is similar to Odegaard or Vieira, for me, is just not the same, because I feel like you did see glimpses from Vieira. And what you want from an attacking midfielder, which is goals and assists. Like, again, almost every single time Vieira got on the pitch last season, either he had a goal contribution. That's what you need. And with Odegaard, similar. He had glimpses. I haven't seen the flash, like a lot of the flashes that people are saying that they've seen with Havertz, but again, it goes back to that tweet that I still have up, that a portion of the fans now feel like it's necessary to back players aggressively despite their form, because they want it to work. And I understand that, but I think everybody just needs to just calm down a little bit. Amira says, just a reminder that most fans suddenly loving Vieira after yesterday wanted him sold after his pen miss against United in preseason. Players need time. Even fans can see Arteta's system isn't easy. Fair enough. Cornell says he celebrates assists like he just scored a worldie. So yeah, that's a wonderful sign. And the thing is like, that should have been the winning goal. And we'll talk about why that wasn't the winning goal. But that is how you change a game. That's a clinic in how you change a game. You come out there, the body language is right. He looked like he wasn't timid at all. And yeah. And the thing is I was having this conversation with a friend the other day, and people are telling me that Vieira was definitely going to get loaned out and ESR is going to be here and all this kind of stuff. Vieira is ahead of ESR in the pecking order. And there is a conversation to be had about what's going on with Emile Smith-Rowe, because we're talking about Gabriel. Emile Smith-Rowe is fit, and he is not getting any looks. Vieira came in ahead of him, and I think that says a lot. I think it says a lot. But I told you guys that, Arteta rates Vieira very highly, and I had no, I'm not surprised. The guy is really, really good, and he fits very well. Ivy says that wasn't Fabio Vieira, that was De Silva yesterday, or David Silva. Is that what you're saying? Where did this performance come from? That's the kind of player that he is, though. I saw it, I had watched a game of him playing in the Europa League last season with Porto against Lyon, and he ran the game. He ran the game as a 21-year-old. He was running the game. He can make things happen. He just needed to gain that confidence, and he needed to bulk up and I think back himself, because I also think it's up to the player to decide whether or not they want to be a part of this team and make shit happen. And I think he decided that. Let's see. Only Gunnar says, we're controlling games. Great. This is not broken. We just need to cut out the individual errors and get used to the new formation. We've been talking about cutting out individual errors for a year now. I'm starting to look at the individuals making the errors and starting to say, okay, you made a couple, you made a couple, because it's happening so often and they're not getting cut out. you know, Roman says Vieira can be like Bernardo Silva if he really applies himself. Exactly. He has to build on this. He has to build on this, but I back him 100% because the guy is actually really good. Yo-Yo says, I won't forget that Arteta tried getting Fabio Vieira into the team last season over Xhaka, but he wasn't ready yet. It's on the manager now to respect form. And yeah, it's like he got his chance against Bournemouth, I think. And we were had another one of those first 30 seconds of the game, actually like 8 seconds in, they scored and he was just lost from there and then he was out the game and we didn't really see that much more of him for the rest of the season. And that's the thing. It's like when you get these chances, you have to really take advantage of them because if you get minutes over Emile Smith Rowe, you have to make it count. If you get in the game after Havertz has had a poor game, you have to make it count. And I don't think he made it count that time that you're talking about, but he did this time. There's 200 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, Vieira was great. And I'm just feeling so happy for him because I really rate the kid and I just think we invested a lot of money in him. And I think there's a reason why. So yeah, he was like only Gunnar saying he was electric. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. So defending the lead, Eddie and Vieira did what they should do, from coming off of the bench. They did the work to come back. Saka had the penalty. Vieira and Eddie connected for the 2-1. But I'll be honest with you guys, like at 2-1 with 20 minutes to go, I still felt uneasy because I didn't feel like we were going to close out that game for some reason. You could feel it. It just still didn't feel like we had it, And so you could feel the goal coming before it actually came, and Fulham were down to 10 men. So we went up 2-1, and I did feel like Fulham were still having a lot of the possession, which was strange to me. Like, I just felt like they had the ball a lot for a team that had 10 men, you know? And I didn't feel like we were controlling the game the way that we should. And one of the stranger parts of this is that I feel like if you want to shut down the game at 2-1, you bring in Gabriel, and we didn't do that. Against Crystal Palace, we did it, but against Fulham, we didn't. And we shouldn't even have to do that. I think that's another conversation, is that 2-1 up to a 10-0 or 10-man Fulham, they should be down. They should be totally like demolished. They should feel like the game is over, but they felt very much like they could still get something. I think that that's a very big issue. Teams are coming to the Emirates and not only feeling like they could get something out of the game, but even at down and with 10 men, they still feel like they can get something. I think that's very telling about how people view us as a team. But we didn't bring in Gabriel to close out the game, and we weren't taking care of possession the way that we did against Crystal Palace, where, we defended really well. And this, again, psychology away from home, so much better than the way it is at home, or at home. But we didn't just like get the ball, pass them to death, and defend with our lives like we did against Crystal Palace. We were so stupid. And I love Zinchenko. He changed the game. He was great, but he did the thing that is the reason why I think a lot of people aren't his biggest fan, is he took a risk in possession when we didn't need to. He got the ball taken away. We gave away a corner, and him and whoever else that was on the front post made a mess out of it. Should have cleared it out. It falls to the feet of Paulinho, and he just puts it in the back of the net. And I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I think Ramsdale should be better, do better there. I think there are a lot of goals that, especially on the ground, that he just doesn't get down to, that he should. And again, any half chance that a team gets basically goes in the back of the net. So it's concerning. It really is that one, we have the lead against 10-man Fulham, and we're not controlling the game and closing out, but we are still very susceptible defending set pieces. Never mind, our attacking set pieces are absolutely trash. Like, defending them, we have went down badly. And I think part of that, we need to look at the set piece coach, but some of it is on the pitch. Who is organizing the back line? Who is getting people in the right positions? Who is telling everybody to get their shit together? I think that just looking back there, everybody looked very lax. They didn't look serious. It's like almost like they thought they had already won the game. And that was so poor. But it was so predictable, which is the worst. And so there's multiple layers there. But defending the lead, we looked like, I don't know, like we didn't have control of the situation. We kind of just let them have the ball again, which is strange. That to me is mentality. Um, give away a soft corner, then give away a soft set piece goal again. It's happening over and over again. And whether or not there needs to be maybe a change at goalkeeper. I know this is controversial and people will hate me for it, but there's a reason why we brought in David Ray and we didn't just keep Matt Turner. Is, I think there's questions around the goalkeeper conversation. I think statistically, Ramsdale lets in more goals than he should. And maybe he can get away with the one in the first minute, but I'm watching these goals go in and I'm just like, does every goalkeeper let that in or just Ramsdale? And so, yeah, like, of course, people will say, well, what about the Adama chance at the end? That's what he's really good at. Ramsdale has strengths, and his strength is, I think, shots in the air, like when he saved the shot from Salah at the end of last season. And those one-on-one situations where they're on transition, he gets out there and he makes the save. I think that's his bag. I think that's where he's really, really good. But on the ground, he just doesn't get down on the ground quick enough. And I just have a feeling that if another goalkeeper is there, some of those chances don't go in. Now, that doesn't mean that it's all his fault. Like, obviously, you should do better on the front post, and Saka should do better on Paulinho. Even Rice, I think Rice is standing there as well. They should do better. They should be more organized in that back line and be clearing that. But your goalkeeper is back there just in case your defense doesn't do what they're supposed to do. And at the moment, if you get a half chance against Arsenal, it's probably going in the back of the net. And we only give like 1 or 2 away, but they're going in. And that's a problem. So I think a change is afoot. I don't know if it'll happen against Man United, but it should happen. I'm just not convinced that this is how things should be, you know? So, and it's going to seem harsh. I know it's going to seem harsh, but they need to look at the goalkeeper position. They need to look at Nicholas Jover, and somebody needs to really dive deep into the psychological part of not concentrating in the first minute of a game, and when we get a lead, not controlling the game. At an even state, I think we're quite good. When we get ahead and the game is we don't seem to be able to like stand up and just control the game. It's crazy. Winning Way says, I'm telling you, 2 months from now, Rice is going to get 100 million on is going to get it 100 million on 5-yard passing. In 2 months, Rice is going to get 100 million on 5-yard passing. You didn't watch the game. I'm sure of it, because if you think Rice only made 1-yard passes, actually his long and short passing has actually increased significantly since moving to Arsenal. So not only do I think you're way off, because statistically it's just there. You didn't watch the game. He was one of our best players, and it it wasn't 5-yard passing. His switches of play were excellent, and he had a couple of nice little through balls into, like, Martinelli and Saka that they just didn't do well with. So, respectfully, you didn't watch the game. Or you did, and maybe it's just you don't feel like you should spend 100 million on a player like Rice, so now you're getting confirmation bias, or, you're thinking, "Oh, well, you did a 5-yard pass, this is all they're paying for," but Rice was class yesterday. He was probably our only really good player in the first half. You didn't watch it. Boy says Rice was finding Trossard and Saka and Odegaard in advanced positions from deep. Watch the game. Exactly. It was just false. Franklin says, MXM, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Arsenal play high line, so making a mistake like Saka one is bad because your right back move to midfield and leave a gap. It's how we play. No, the way that we play is not Saka blindly passing it back to somebody that's not there. I get that we play a high line, and so it's high risk, high reward, but that's just a lack of concentration. Playing a high line does not excuse a lack of concentration. And I still think Saka should look up and see if somebody's there before just blindly passing. Because even if Partey's in the wrong position, and I think he probably was in the wrong position, you don't just blindly pass it back. And that's a lack of concentration. And I think a lot of people have said that as well. Like, I think a lot of people recognize that, we play a high line. And so, sometimes the chances that we're going to give up are going to be risky, and quite high chances because there's not going to be a lot of people back there. But that doesn't excuse passing backwards without, looking back there. So yeah, there's that. Blaze says, Rice wasn't bad yesterday. I don't understand why why people keep trolling him. Yeah, I think people are just reaching badly. I think Rice has been good in the last 2 games, and he's settling in very well. So yeah. Chris Frazier says, rule number 1, never play a blind pass, nothing to do with the high line. I agree. Boy says, fan base is more emotional than the team. Must be a nightmare playing at home against a coached opposition with the fans gasping at any human moment from the team. Fair enough. Well, it's definitely not like it was last season. I'll say that for sure. Like, we're making mistakes and the groans are definitely there. And it's definitely not like when Saliba headed it back into his own net and people started cheering. But again, the atmosphere is, I think, different for multiple reasons that I already explained, early on. I just don't think fans are as convinced on what we're doing. There's still a hangover and disappointment from last season. And so the atmosphere is definitely nowhere near as positive as it was. No, I'm not going to say nowhere near because I don't want to say that people but it's definitely not what it was last season. Only Gunnar says Saka killed us. We forgive him always. Let's do the same for Havertz and Eddie and Vieira. Yeah, like, I think Saka had a poor game by his standards, but it is what it is. People have bad games, so for me, like, and I think also people just forget that, like, and this is human nature. It's not just favorites, is certain players have credit in the bank. They just do. And Saka's one of them because for several years he's carried us. And so he can have a bad game and we'll probably forgive him a lot quicker than somebody who came from a rival, was never good at that rival team, cost us 70 million, is on 200,000 pounds per week. And nobody ever really wanted in the first place. And that's not to be harsh on Kai Havertz, but that's the reality. It's going to take a lot more for people to take what Kai Havertz does lightly than with Saka. That's human nature. And I think that's how it should be, to be honest. I think certain players are going to get more, like, they're going to get less harsh criticism because of the credit that they have in the bank. So yeah. Yo-Yo says, we're an overly emotional team. This is on the leadership group for me. And yeah, like, another way to, exciting game at the Emirates. And this time it didn't fall in our direction. I think our team is quite emotional and they lack something at home. So I don't blame the fan base for being emotional. That's what fans are. They express emotion towards their team. It's up to the team to give us less to be emotional about, I think. I think it's harsh on the fans to say, like, don't be emotional at all. Like, just relax, you know? Um, what are fans meant to do? I had one guy behind me screaming all types of stuff. Everybody was crap in his eyes. And then there's another guy just like, oh my gosh, just pass forward to the like fans are meant to be emotional over their team. And, it doesn't always make sense and we're not always right. But it's up to the team, I think, to make the fans believe. And I think the fans did a lot of heavy lifting last season. I think it's time for the team to do the lifting. So Boy says some players get more rope than others. The nice thing is that often the players have to weave that rope themselves. Some players aren't allowed to weave any rope. Fair enough. So yeah. Aman says we can still change the players or the setup however we want, but it doesn't change the fact that our mentality at home is shocking. I agree with that. So yeah, I think overall, thinking about the Man United game and feeling a lot less confident about it than I did 24 hours ago, because going into, the Fulham game, had we had won, I think we're totally battering them. But, seeing how we give away chances so easily. And, I think about, the game at the Emirates last season where we gifted them a goal. I think the Rashford goal is just it's an individual moment from a brilliant player. So I don't really think that we gave him that goal. But the second one off the corner was definitely self-inflicted. And so I just think about, we haven't stomped that out. We look just as susceptible as ever to making a brainless decision. And so I'm worried about the Man United game. I wonder if they'll sit in a low block. Probably. I think they'll sit in some sort of block and try to hit us on the counter. That's their sweet spot. That's our kryptonite. So I feel like the game plan and how the teams will set up and everything will be very kind of like obvious. It's just a matter of if Arsenal can get out of the mental state that we were in against Fulham and just kind of like forget about it and start over. And if Arteta picks the right team. And things that I would consider if I was Arteta. I'm not a coach, so I'm just saying, I'm just saying. I would consider the goalkeeper situation. Maybe it's not the right game, but the game needs to come. I would do sooner rather than later. The back line, obviously with Zinchenko looking, you don't want to rush him because he's so important to the team that if he's not at 100%, I do think you want to ease him in. But he played almost like 40 minutes yesterday, so he's probably all right, ish, So, maybe you start him. Does that necessarily mean he starts? Does that necessarily mean he starts Gabriel? I don't know, because we saw Zinchenko come in and he played with Kiwi and Saliba and Ben. So I'm still not convinced that Gabriel is going to come straight back in. I was very convinced at first that if Zinchenko plays, then Gabriel plays. But even chasing or trying to seal up the game, he still elected not to use Gabriel. So I'm not sure, but I would bring Zinchenko back into the team. The midfield, we know how we played against Man City works. I thought we created quite a few chances against Man City. We had really good moments against Man City. We were good in that game. So we know that with Rice in the 8 and Thomas Partey in 6, we can do things with that. And I actually think Martinelli and Rice play quite nice with each other. So I'd consider that. And then up front, I just think you need to play Eddie. And that's coming from somebody who's not his biggest fan. I just think you need to play the people that are in form. And he's in form right now. But Thomas Partey against Rashford is a recipe for disaster. Ten Hag may not be the best, but I think he's smart enough to know stop Thomas Partey from coming central and good way of stopping him from coming central is consistently pinging balls in behind our back line on our right-hand side. So Partey has to consistently chase after Marcus Rashford. If that happens, we are fucked. And so in this game specifically, you need to bin the Partey at right back thing. I think you have to. And then give us a chance to win the game by putting Zinchenko in there and allowing that to work, you know. And we'll see from there. But there are some things to think about. So yeah. Very interesting days ahead. Timidio says losing Gabriel at the moment will be unwise. Only Gunnar says United are white. Don't worry, it'll be easy. They're white. What's that mean? Carabot says we dropped points yesterday against Fulham. Come on, Gunners. We cannot play Partey right back. Bailey says Eddie is a mentality monster. His hold-up play has improved a lot. He scored last year against Man United. I think he should keep the shirt for sure. Amira says we'll always talk about partnerships and attack in midfield, but what about defense? Does Gabriel play when Zinchenko plays? I mean, that's what I would assume that, and I have been assuming that, but I'm starting to second guess that a little bit because I would think Gabriel is like the obvious choice coming off of the bench after we scored the second goal, but maybe Arteta just thought we'd be able to see it out, but you know, he didn't play at all yesterday. And so that's, yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. I mean, you can't obviously do Zinchenko and Gabriel and those two, you know, so, but we know it works, so you could go back to it, but what if he doesn't? You know, what if he doesn't? Something ain't right. Winning Way says Zinni gives the ball away a lot. I wouldn't play Zinni for a full 90 minutes. He doesn't give the ball away a lot. He does take risks, and sometimes we get punished for it for sure. But I don't think I think you say when you say somebody gives away the ball a lot, that, you know, they're dispossessed a lot. I think Zinchenko is really reliable on the ball, but he has like maybe two giveaways in a game. But I hear what you're saying. But I would start him. You know, I don't know why I wouldn't start him. But Tomiyasu is back, actually. Now that I'm thinking about that, is Tomiyasu back? So if Tomiyasu is back, I could actually see him starting to shut down Antony. I don't know. So Tomiyasu could actually start. So, you know, is that what he does? I don't know. You guys. It could be anything. You guys are saying G6 is leaving. You guys are saying he's leaving. I mean, is somebody saying it? Or are you guys just saying that? Damn. Let's see. Oh, I don't see anything. No, I don't see anything about Gabriel leaving, but you guys are like assuming he'll leave. If he does, it better be a big bid, you know, and if it comes from Saudi, it's kind of like our window will be closed by then. So it's like not like you can bring somebody in, and we're already like super light in defense. So I don't know. I don't like that. Yeah. Only Gunnar says I can't think of him giving the ball away before to our cost. Caught one-on-one a few times, but good on the ball. And that's the thing about Zinchenko is that the thing about him is that he does have a giveaway in him. He's a high risk, high reward player. I mean, when he's on the ball and he's on it, like he can do absolutely anything, and he makes us such a good team. But there's always like one dodgy moment in the game, and it's whether or not we get punished for it. But I don't think that one dodgy moment means that we need to keep him off the pitch, because like, would I rather take my chances with the dodgy moment with Zinchenko versus watch Tomiyasu be like super like rigid on that sideline? Yeah, I'd rather put Zinchenko in. And I love Tommy. I just think, you know, we're really, I think, not really struggling, but I do think our fluidity and progressing the ball is struggling a little bit without him. So we'll see. Iman says that would be one of the worst decisions made by the club Gabriel sold. Only Gunnar says Saudi will pay Gabby way more when he's won everything in the game with Arsenal in 8 years' time. Winning says Smith Rowe needs to go now. I'll never see a number 10 on the bench ever as much as him. Matt G says, I don't think Gabriel is leaving. It would have to be a massive fee, and we would need to have a replacement already lined up. Tyrell Gunner TV says, Arsenal can't sell him. We are weak in defense. Saksham says, if we lose Gabriel, it will be one of the worst downgrades after spending 200 million. Yeah. Timoteo says, not starting in consecutive games. He's defo leaving. And did that Saudi team ever sign Marquinhos? Because they said they were going after Marquinhos instead. I don't know, you guys. I feel like we'll just see what happens with that. I'm really hoping we don't do it at this stage because I know we won't replace him. And that just seems so dumb. Like, I'm up for him potentially going, but only if we had enough time to seriously replace him with somebody better. I love Gabriel, but I already said he's not on my like non-transferable list. Like, he's not like unsellable to me. If you can find a really good replacement. But when we talk about really good replacements for Gabriel, we're talking about like Gabriel is so good that like the next level up is like Saliba on the left-hand side. And those types of players don't come very often. I mean, you're talking about Gvardiol, so there's no Gvardiol, so you can't get rid of Gabriel. Like, there's just no way. So yeah. Let's see. Franklin says G6 G6 is not leaving. We play Partey right back to bring in Kai. We should have moved to the back four and dropped Kai for this game. Fair enough. Yo-Yo says Eddie, Zin, Fabio Vieira start for me. And that's definitely an option. I think what Arteta does with good performances like what Fabio Vieira put out is very important for this team. I think you have to be rewarded for good performances. And the thing about it, it's like Trossard was playing really well and he wasn't really rewarded for those good performances. And then once he gets put in, he plays terrible. So I wonder what Arteta does with this, if he uses it and gives him a start against Man United, or, and the thing about Man United is unless something really changes in the next couple of days, which it could, they could bring in a player like an Amrabat or something like that. But if they don't, then I don't necessarily see a midfield from Man United that is just going to completely run us over. That's the one thing about Man United is I think their strength is definitely like playing on the counter, being really good at that. Bruno Fernandes doing his thing, and dictating everything. But in terms of like a physical battle, I don't think Fabio Vieira is getting ran over at the Emirates by Man United, So maybe he rewards him for that. But I'll say this right now, I'd be disappointed if Havertz started this game based on everything we've seen. But we'll see. So yeah. Let's see. Just a J says that first goal may have ended Ramsdale's Arsenal career. International break looking spooky. Oh yeah, international breaks coming up too. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it has ended his career, but you have to look at that and say, if somebody else is there, do all these goals go in? And there is the chance that, if he's not in the goal, Traore scores. If he's not in the goal, last season, Bournemouth players don't score, blah, blah, blah. But I'm really looking at the shots on the ground that just seem to just trickle in. Like, what's that? Yo-Yo says, I expect significant changes after the break. Fair enough. So yeah, we'll see. But I think we kind of ran through everything, and it's been almost 2 hours, so I know we have. I guess the last thing that I just want to kind of say is that, people are talking about, are we starting slowly or are we going backwards? And I would say right now it's inconclusive, because until we get to December, January, I don't think we'll know where we're going this season. It could be the case that, because again, I think we've been quite dominant in every single game, and really the goals that we've given away, um, all 3 of them for me are very avoidable. Um, and 2 of them are just very, I mean, the transition goal from Nottingham Forest, I think, is really poor, but I think you'll see quite a bit of those with Arsenal, because if you saw, like, the Brighton West Ham game, is that if you have decent counterattacking team against a team that likes to control possession, and that sits high, like, high on the high line, there's always a chance that they will get you once or twice on the counter. Like, that's just kinda how it is, you know? So, the Nottingham Forest or goal is what it is, but, you know, I think about the Brennan Johnson chance that he probably should have put away, and the 2 goals that we gave away yesterday, and I just think, you know, um, unless those go away, we're not gonna win anything, and we just won't really know until December or January if we're fighting for titles or if we're fighting for something else. We just have to see, but at the moment, you know, I don't know. It's We could just be starting slowly, you know? Um, I feel like that might be what it is though. Like, you're starting slowly, but we're still dominant, and, I'm looking at it like yesterday we could have scored 4 or 5 goals, like, if we're serious. So, yeah, but Arteta has to make some tough decisions, I think, um, moving forward, and we'll see if he doubles down on some of the decisions that he's made, or if he switches it up and kinda goes more back to what we know. But I think this team is really good, and this team can challenge. We'll just have to see what happens in the next couple of months, you know? I know a lot of people are feeling like we've gone backwards. Um, I think we're kind of the same. We're just not, I think we kinda picked up where we left off from the end of last season. That's kinda what it feels like. So yeah. Amir says, "If it's a consolation, we're having a slow start. City always have, and they've started this season like we did last season. Basically, we're winning the league at this time." That's what I have to believe. There's 174 of you guys still watching, which I really appreciate. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Obviously, the transfer window is winding down, so we'll see if anything happens. Obviously, Tierney is now in Spain and Balogun is at Monaco. But in order for anybody to potentially come in, we'd have to have quite a few sales now from now until the end of the season or end of the window. And I don't know if I'm necessarily expecting that. So I will keep you updated on all of that kind of stuff. But I don't expect much movement, so we will see. Make sure on your way out, you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. And I just want to thank you guys once again for always being here and supporting the channel, whether you super chat or not. I appreciate talking to you guys. You guys are amazing. And when I see you guys out and about in London, it is just like, it makes my day. So thank you guys so much. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.